Chapter 5 Fragments of Memory. Makoto's eyes, which continue to stare at the bottom of the well, see a faint light twinkling in the darkness. As if the light was calling to her, Makoto's consciousness was sucked into the deep darkness. "Makoto-san, look out." Kenji's voice was heard in the distance, but Makoto could no longer reach it. As she reached into the well, cold air enveloped her fingertips, and soon the coldness covered her entire body. The next moment, Makoto lost consciousness and was dragged into the darkness. When she awoke, Makoto was standing somewhere strange, in the middle of a foggy forest. She could see nothing around her, only a cold wind that stung her skin. Makoto started to walk fearfully, but her footing was unstable, and she almost fell down several times. "Where am I?" Fear tightened Makoto's chest as she lost track of where she was and what she was doing. At that moment, she heard a voice from far away. "Makoto, help me." The voice belonged to Yui. Makoto followed the voice as it led him through the forest. Soon, a ray of light shone through the trees, and an old shrine-like building appeared ahead. Makoto approached the shrine with trepidation and pushed open the door. Inside, a dark shadow was hovering, as if something was staring back at her. However, the shadow gradually changed shape, and soon, the figure of a girl emerged. Makoto. The girl's face was that of the former Yui. However, her eyes were vacant and looked as if they had lost their life. Makoto gulped and tried to approach her, but his legs were too weak to move. "Yui, it was my fault. That day, Makoto reached out her hand to Yui, tears streaming down her face. But Yui backed away as if to avoid his hand, a sad expression on her face. "We made a promise, didn't we? We promised that we would always be together. But you betrayed me." Makoto felt her heart ache at these words. All the memories that had been sealed away inside her came flooding back. And the scene of the day of the accident flashed through her mind. That day, Makoto and Yui were innocently playing together, facing the well that had been their childhood playground. However, the moment Makoto suddenly peeked into the well, something almost pulled her under. Yui desperately tried to pull Makoto up, but she lost her balance and the two nearly fell over the edge of the well. Makoto was so terrified that she pushed Yui away, trying to save only herself. As a result, Yui fell into the well and suffered deep injuries. Makoto subconsciously tried to forget what had happened, and he sealed away the memory of the accident. However, instead of erasing that memory, the power of the well planted another memory in Makoto. "Yui, I couldn't save you, because of me." Makoto accepted this fact, regretted his actions, and was tormented by guilt. However, Yui's figure gradually disappeared into the mist, and eventually vanished completely. "Yui, wait." Makoto desperately tried to reach out and chase after her, but the fog became thicker and thicker, robbing her of her vision. The next moment, she lost consciousness again and fell into darkness. When she woke up again, Makoto was lying by the well, supported by Kenji. His face was a mixture of worry and relief, and he seemed pleased that Makoto had returned safely. "Makoto-san, are you all right?" Makoto nodded at Kenji's voice, but her head was still a bit fuzzy. However, there was a kind of clarity in her, as she learned the truth about the accident. "Yui showed me the truth," Makoto told Kenji and tried to stand up, but her body was too heavy to move. Kenji supported her gently as they slowly walked toward the forest exit. As they exited the forest, the fog in the town gradually began to lift and light shone through. The residents were gradually returning to normal, and the entire town had regained its serenity. Makoto breathed deeply as he sensed that the effects of the well were weakening. Makoto was able to face the fear lurking in the well and reconcile with her past memories. Yui was no longer in sight, but the memories of her would remain vivid in Makoto's mind. "Makoto, this is not the end. The mystery of the well has not yet been completely solved, but at least you were able to face yourself. That is the most important thing." Makoto nodded quietly at Kenji's words and looked around the town. He understood that coming back to this town was a necessary ordeal for him. "Thank you, Kenji. But from now on, I will walk my new path," Makoto told him with a smile. She was determined to take a step toward the future, even as she carried her past with her. Chapter 6 The Way Home. When morning came to the town of Kiryu, the sky was blue for the first time in a long time. It was a refreshing morning, as if the days of thick fog covering the town were a lie. The town's residents had returned to their daily lives, as if nothing had happened, and had resumed their usual quiet routine. Makoto was thinking back over the events of the past days, as he packed up his belongings at home, facing the memories that had been revived under the influence of the well. She felt a kind of liberation in being able to accept the truth. Free from the burdens of the past, Makoto was determined to begin her life once again. In the morning, Makoto went to see Kenji. When she entered his house, Kenji was in his study organizing some materials. He smiled when he saw Makoto and welcomed her quietly. He smiled at Makoto and welcomed him quietly. "Yes, thank you so much, Kenji. Without you, I am sure I would not have been able to return to this town and face the truth." Makoto expressed her words of gratitude to Kenji. Kenji nodded and looked as if he was pondering something. He continued, "Kiryu-cho still holds many mysteries. The power of the well has not been fully revealed, and I intend to continue my investigation. However, the most important thing is that you have made peace with your past. That will bode well for this town." Kenji's words were filled with encouragement for Makoto. He was one of the people who had been dealing with the history of this town. Makoto held Kenji in high esteem and envisioned the path he should take from now on. "I am going back to Tokyo. But this time, I will not be bound by the past. And I will look forward to the future." Kenji smiled and held out a small package to Makoto. It was a piece of his brother's journal. It was the last words his brother left for him. "Perhaps they will be of use to you in the future." Makoto accepted the package and expressed his deepest gratitude to Kenji. After that, there was one more person Makoto really wanted to meet. It was Yui. He went to her house and knocked on the door again. And this time the door opened quietly. Out from inside was a rather tired-looking Yui. But her eyes did not show the same fear as before. "Yui, are you okay?" Makoto asked, and Yui nodded, smiling slightly. Makoto nodded, smiling a little. "I feel like I'm finally free." The two quietly faced each other and discussed the events of the past. Yui, too, seemed to be free of the well's influence and able to face the past. Makoto embraced her and they parted, promising to meet again. On Makoto's way to the station, the entire town looked different than ever. The old houses and quiet streets of Kiryu-cho seemed to take on a new glow. Little by little, the town seemed to be overcoming its dark history and embracing a new future. Arriving at the station, Makoto took one last look back at the town as he waited for the train. Now that she had made peace with the past and was ready to take a step toward the future, the town was no longer a place of fear for her. Rather, it will be deeply etched in her mind as a place where she has achieved her own personal growth. When the train arrived at the station, Makoto picked up her luggage and climbed into the car. Sitting down in her seat, she imagined herself back in the hustle and bustle of the city again. But she was still confident that this time, she would be able to start anew with a different mindset. The train began to move slowly, and the scenery of Kiryu-cho gradually moved away. Gazing out the window, Makoto thought that if he ever returned to this town again, he would be able to visit it with a completely different feeling. Under the blue sky, the town of Kiryu was moving away from her. A new light was beginning to shine in Makoto's heart.